When I saw my maid comforting my disabled daughter, I never expected a heart-wrenching secret. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension. I walked into the room, expecting the usual chaos. But there they were, my daughter and Maria, huddled together like they were sharing the world's most intimate secret. My heart stumbled at the sight. Tears glided down my daughter's cheeks, glistening like tiny diamonds. Maria's arms were wrapped tightly around her, an almost protective cocoon. I had never seen that look on my daughter's face before. The mix of despair and solace. My breath hitched. I stood frozen in the doorway. It was the kind of moment that seems to stretch indefinitely, seconds feeling like hours. The room was silent, save for the soft whimpering of my daughter and the gentle whisper of Maria's voice. What were they talking about? What could possibly warrant such an emotional exchange? The shadows danced on the walls, every flicker drawing me deeper into the mystery of their shared moment. Maria had always been more than just a maid to us. She cooked, cleaned, but I always thought she was merely there for the paycheck, a distant presence in our lives. Yet now, seeing her kneel down, hand stroking my daughter's hair, I wondered if there was something about her that I had failed to see. Was there a bond that transcended my understanding? My instincts screamed at me. This was beyond mere kindness. What had sparked this emotional connection? Just then, a loud crash from the kitchen tore through the fragile silence. I jumped, the reality of the situation crashing back, and my daughter wiped her tears hastily. Maria shot a glance at me, eyes wide, as if I had caught her in the act of a crime. I could practically feel the tension in the air thicken. Something unspoken lingered between us. What was this secret they were sharing? It gnawed at my insides, whispering doubts and fears I'd never entertained before. Before I could process my thoughts, Maria stood up, brushing her hands nervously against her apron. Her demeanor changed in an instant. Shadows masked her expression, and a tale hung heavy in the stillness of the room. I had questions, so many questions, but the most pressing one weighed most heavily on my heart. What was keeping my daughter up at night? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The evening felt unusually heavy as I tried to gather my thoughts after interrupting that intimate moment between Maria and my daughter. I could still feel the unsettling tension swirling around us. I wished for the warmth of family comfort, but instead, I found myself drifting into uncertainty. What was left unspoken had carved an invisible chasm between us, and I wondered how I could traverse it without knowing what lay on the other side. After the kitchen chaos settled, my daughter retreated to the living room, intent on burrowing further into the cushions of the sofa, her sanctuary. I sensed that she was trying to escape not only the moment, but the emotions that lingered like a dense fog. As I joined her, I couldn't help but notice the faint remnants of tears staining her cheeks. The bonds of mother and daughter, once seemingly woven tightly together, now felt frayed. "Maria is nice, isn't she?" my daughter whispered, barely making eye contact as she fiddled with the frayed edge of her blanket. The innocence of the statement belied the tension, yet I felt a churning within me. Maria's kindness had become a double-edged sword, piercing deeper into the wound of my own invisibility. Could it be that someone else was filling a void I was too blind to see? "She is," I replied, searching for the right words to coax her to share more. "What were you two talking about?" The question seemed to hang in the air, expanding with every moment of silence. I felt as though I was dangling on a thread over dark waters, teetering precariously between wanting to protect her and needing to know the truth. My daughter shifted, a hint of defiance sparking in her doe eyes, but it extinguished as quickly as it appeared. "Nothing," she mumbled, as if summoning her strength to shield herself from the depth of my inquiry. However, that evening had carved a new narrative for me, the realization that I was losing touch with my child, and perhaps to this beautiful, brave woman who had become a fixture in our lives. As if sensing my spiral into despair, There was an unexpected knock at the door. The sound sliced through the air like a lifeline, and I jumped up, eager to divert my mind. I swung open the door to find Mrs. Martinez, our elderly neighbor, leaning against the doorframe with a panicked expression. "Dear," she gasped, her voice quivering like someone stepping into the fray of an unexpected storm. "I think you need to hear this." Her breath came in short bursts, almost as if she were carrying the weight of unspoken secrets. "What is it?" I asked, my stomach twisting. The last thing I needed was another complication. "It's about Maria," she began, her eyes darting behind me to the living room. "She used to work in my house, and there is something you need to know about her past." My heart raced as Mrs. Martinez continued with tales of Maria's former life, one filled with loss and hardship, a tapestry woven of struggles that resonated with my daughter's own battles. With each revelation, Maria morphed from a distant figure in our lives into someone facing storms far greater than my feeble worries. But the more I listened, the more the ache grew in my chest. It wasn't just pity. It was a deeper connection, a bridge that might span the gap that had manifested in my daughter's heart. "Why didn't you share this with me sooner?" I blurted, frustration mixing with empathy. "I didn't want to interfere, but you need to understand how brave she is," Mrs. Martinez replied, eyes softening with age-old wisdom. "Sometimes kindness comes from those who know suffering intimately." A strange sense of clarity filled me as I retreated into the living room, weighing this new knowledge like a delicate balance. Maria was not simply a maid. She was a survivor. I glanced at my daughter who sat oblivious, wrapped in blanket secrets of her own. With everything I'd learned swirling around like an unspoken tempest, all I could think was that this storm was only just beginning. A compelling urge to confront Maria raced through my veins, but the unsaid words rattled in my throat. Just then, as I turned towards the kitchen to find her, my daughter called out with a voice stronger than I'd ever heard from her before. "Mom, wait. There's one more thing you need to know." Time hung suspended as the weight of her statement landed heavily between us, a fragile promise of truth that could shatter everything I thought I knew. I stood there, heart pounding, every instinct telling me this could change everything. What more could there possibly be? My stomach twisted with an unidentifiable fear as I turned slowly to face my daughter. Her expression had shifted, an amalgamation of determination and vulnerability. It was in that moment, with the dim light casting shadows across her face, that I saw not a child but a young woman grappling with a harsh reality, one that I had been blind to for far too long. "What is it, sweetie?" I asked, unsure if I was ready for the truth she was about to unveil. My voice cracked slightly, betraying the turbulence within. "I overheard Maria talking to her friend on the phone," she began, her fingers gripping the blanket tightly. "She was upset about her mother. She said she's not well and that she might have to go back home." Each syllable felt heavy, like iron links chaining me to a deeper understanding of the gravity of our lives and the lives of those around us. I had only seen Maria as a figure, someone to fill the void left in our home. But now it felt as though I was standing on the precipice of someone else's despair. The realization dawned on me that Maria was not just a caregiver, but a woman caught in a web of breaking ties, fear, and hope. What else did she say? I found myself pressing, afraid that what followed might shatter the fragile peace we had just begun to mend. She said she might have to leave for good, and that she doesn't know what she will do if she goes. That it was hard to choose between her family and her life here. My daughter's voice trembled, and the waves of her emotion washed over me, igniting my own fear for Maria and my child who depended on her. That I sat next to her, stunned. "You shouldn't have to carry this alone. It isn't your burden." "But it feels like my fault," she whispered, defeated, her chin tucked into her chest. "If we didn't need her so much, if I didn't rely on her," her words trailed off, heavy with heartache. "No, this is not your fault." I took her hand in mine, wishing I could pull her out of her pain and into the warmth of understanding. The world can be heavy, but kindness shouldn't have to come with a price. As we sat in silence, a flicker of hope emerged. I thought about Mrs. Martinez's words, how sometimes kindness comes from those who have suffered. Perhaps I could ease a bit of this burden off them both. "What if we help Maria?" I suggested, the idea blooming slowly like a hesitant flower. "What if we reach out to her? Maybe together we can lift her spirits or find a way to support her mother." My daughter's eyes lifted at the suggestion, a glimmer of something new sparking within them. You think that will help? It's worth a try, right? I replied, squeezing her hand tighter. And maybe we can learn how to share our own struggles in the process. Just then, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed from the hallway, pulling my attention away from our conversation. When I peeked through the door, I saw Maria standing there, framed by the fading light. Her face was a mixture of concern and uncertainty, and she looked as if she'd overheard something she shouldn't have. Her voice was barely a whisper. I didn't mean to intrude. I was just getting some water caught off guard. I looked back at my daughter, who nodded slightly, a silent encouragement. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment draw us together like magnets. Maria, I said, can we talk? She hesitated, then stepped inside, the door closing heavily behind her, sealing us into a cocoon of uncharted territory. There was an electricity in the air, whispered secrets promising both hope and heartache. But before I could take another step, Maria's phone buzzed in her pocket, a harsh reminder of the world awaiting her outside our fragile bubble. She glanced nervously at the screen and froze, her eyes widening. I need to answer this, she stammered, panic rising within her. Go ahead, I urged. Though a troubling sensation began to take root in my gut. She stepped away to take the call. I caught my daughter's eye. In that moment, no words were needed. We both sensed the gravity of what was unfolding. I held my breath, half listening to Maria's conversation as it seemed to spiral into a frantic exchange. And then, as she turned back toward us, a single tear streaming down her cheek, the air shifted dramatically. I have to go, she said, her voice cracking. I just found out my mother is in the hospital. She might not have much time. The room fell silent, and in that heart-stopping moment filled with unspoken grief, I felt the chasm between us widen, threatening to consume us all. I squeezed my daughter's hand, hearts racing, facing a new reality that was only beginning to unfold. In the midst of fear, I could only wonder if our attempts to reach out would be enough to bridge the gap that lay ahead, or if our lives would change irrevocably. The stark truth of Maria's words hung in the air like a ghost, lingering with an intensity that stole the breath from my lungs. She had to leave. In an instant, everything felt precariously unbalanced, and I couldn't shake the idea that this revelation would shatter whatever fragile bond we had begun to forge. As the silence enveloped us, I could hear the impending storm of emotions, the tightness in my chest, the quiet sobs of my daughter, and even the steel resolve of Maria, who stood before us, trembling at the precipice of her decision. She wiped the tear from her cheek with a hastily practiced motion, her heart caught in a terrible conundrum, the love for her dying mother and a life she had built here. Maria, are you okay? My daughter finally asked, her voice a whisper, filled with fragile concern. I don't know, Maria admitted, her voice maintaining its tremor as she grappled with the words. The doctor said she might not make it. I need to go see her. Each syllable felt like a lead weight, pressing down on the three of us in that cramped room. My daughter's brow furrowed. But what about us? I mean, about me? Her pain pierced through me, admiration mingling with helplessness as I witnessed her struggle to articulate what was in her heart. Maria took a step back as if physically recoiling from the emotional intensity, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. I didn't want you to face this alone. You've all become my family. But I have to help my mother. I must. Looking into Maria's eyes, I saw a flicker of the warmth she had shared with us in the kitchen, laughter ricocheting off the walls during moments of mundane beauty. But now, that laughter seemed so distant, replaced by a quiet desperation that made my heart ache for both her and my daughter. No, I found myself saying, surprising both of us. You don't need to choose between us. We can help you, we want to help you. Her expression softened momentarily, a mix of fear and relief dancing across her features. Yet, I sensed the gravity of her situation, the invisible chains bound to her heart, tugging her back toward a world filled with grief. What if we go with you? My daughter suggested, her eyes glimmering with a bravery I didn't know she possessed. We could help you deal with everything. The three of us. The words hung suspended in the air, innocent yet monumental. The weight of her suggestion was like a lighthouse illuminating a tempestuous sea, a way to combat despair with solidarity. I felt the warmth in my chest as I grabbed my daughter's hand, squeezing it tightly. But Maria shook her head vigorously, panic flickering in her eyes. No, no, you can't do that. You have your lives to live. Your struggles, she faltered, grappling with the burden of pushing us away while also wanting to keep us close. Maria, please. I stepped toward her, longing to pull her back from the edge of a precipice that threatened to swallow her whole. We're not just here to take. We can give, too. We can lend you strength. The silence that followed stretched ominously, cradling possible rejection or an unexpected embrace. For a brief second, I glimpsed hope glinting in her eyes like sunlight through storm clouds. But before the first sparks could ignite into flames, Maria's phone buzzed again, making her flinch as if it were a thunderous clap of destiny. I have to take this, she stammered, her hands trembling as she fought to maintain composure. As she stepped away, my daughter turned to me, her face a mosaic of hope and confusion, colored by the gravity of Maria's situation. Do you think it's going to be okay? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to reassure her, to offer her some semblance of certainty in this tumultuous sea, but the truth was I felt just as lost. I don't know, but what I do know is that we'll be here for her, I replied, drawing my daughter close. Folding her into the safety of our shared warmth as the seconds slipped by, I watched Maria through the partially open bedroom door, her phone pressed against her ear, her face pale with a mixture of longing and dread. Each moment stretched on as I wondered what words were exchanged on the other end, whether it was news of her mother's condition or a frantic acknowledgement that everything was slipping away. Suddenly, Maria's voice rose, prayer-like, pleading, Please, please don't leave me alone. The desperation echoed like a bell tolling the impending darkness, and in reaction, my heart plummeted. When she turned to rejoin us, there was a new uncertainty in her gaze, a storm of emotion swirling within those usually grounded brown eyes. Taking a deep breath, she stepped toward us, the very foundations of our fragile connection hanging in the balance. This changes everything, she said, the weight of her words pressing down upon us. And just as I opened my mouth to respond, the phone clattered to the floor, shattering the pregnant silence with a shocking finality. As she bent down to retrieve it, the screen lit up to reveal a snapshot of a woman who looked strikingly familiar with weary eyes that mirrored Maria's. My heart quickened, and in that split second, I felt like I was peering into a darkened mirror where all my questions had just surfaced. I didn't have the words to speak. The raw emotion of the moment hung thick in the air, and I couldn't shake the feeling that my world was about to shift in ways I never anticipated. The world outside our little sanctuary morphed into a haze of tumultuous clouds, mirroring the storm brewing within us. As Maria straightened up, the phone dangling limply in her hand, I caught the glimmer of something profound in her gaze, an oscillation between hope and despair that rattled me to my core. She blinked rapidly, as if trying to fend away the tears she seemed to be battling in a futile war. Maria, I started, my voice slicing through the tangled emotion enveloping us. Who is this woman? The question slipped out before I could pull it back, the air igniting with the low thrum of urgency. It's my mother, she murmured, her voice barely breaking past the lump that had formed in her throat. But even the invocation of her mother hung heavily upon her lips, as if speaking the truth bore the weight of the universe on her shoulders. The image on the phone flickered in my mind's eye, a reflection of the love and sacrifice that radiated from that woman, now reduced to a haunting reminder of the life Maria was being tugged back to. Your mother looks a lot like you, I said gently, shifting my stance as I noticed the way Maria's breath seemed to quicken, her eyes darting away. Yeah, she has always been there, Maria choked out. But now things are different. Silence settled like a heavy fog, pressing in on all sides, thick and stifling. It's okay to be scared, my daughter interjected softly, her voice a warm caress in a bitter, cold atmosphere. I'm scared too. I watched Maria's expression soften, understanding sparking in her gaze as she studied my daughter's courage. I never wanted you to feel this burden, she whispered, remorse threading through her words, deepening the chasm between desire and necessity. You aren't a burden, Maria? My daughter exclaimed, her youthful conviction radiating through the somber air. You've already given us so much. You helped me with everything, and we want to help you. Your mother, I interjected gently. She raised you into a strong, compassionate person. It's clear you've inherited that strength. But we cannot fix everything, and you shouldn't have to bear this weight alone. As if shaken from her stupor, Maria stepped closer, the tears spilling down her cheeks, reflecting a complex web of emotions in the dim light. What if I can't do this? What if I fail her? Her anguish echoed, wrapping its tendrils around our hearts, squeezing tightly. You won't fail her, my daughter said, fearlessly meeting Maria's gaze. You're already being so brave by facing it. And if you need to cry, or scream, or even just sit in silence, we will be right here with you. We're family now, remember? Maria closed her eyes, a luminescent warmth emerging beneath the shroud of sorrow. And for a few delicate moments, she seemed suspended in a fragile state of hope. Yet, as quickly as the light flared, it faded into the shadows of uncertainty once more when the phone buzzed sharply against the wood floor. With trembling hands, she picked it up, glancing at the screen, which displayed a flood of notifications, messages from her siblings perhaps, or calls from friends hoping to share their strength. I felt the anxious flutter of my heart, every moment stretching in potential loss. Are you going to answer? I asked softly, not wanting to intrude, but noting the urgency tangled in the vibrations of the phone as though it knew Maria needed to make a choice. She inhaled deeply, her eyes narrowing as she locked onto the chaotic flickering light. I have to know what is happening, Maria said, the resolve building slowly, igniting a determination I hadn't seen before. Maybe this is how we get through it. Her fingers hovered over the screen, anxiety pulsing in her veins. And just as she pressed the incoming call, the doorbell chimed unexpectedly, a sharp contrast to the poignant heaviness filling the room. Who could that be? My daughter murmured, her innocence cutting sharply through the tension surrounding us. I felt the hair on the back of my neck prickle, sensing the disturbance, as this moment felt too layered, too fraught to welcome any more uncertainty. I don't know, I said, even as dread coiled tightly in my stomach. Maria's eyes darted between the door and the phone, that amalgamation of fear and hope refracting through her gaze. Do you want me to get it? I offered, but Maria seemed rooted to the spot, the call not yet connecting, her heart caught in the ever-increasing labyrinth of her feelings. Yes, she whispered uncertainly, her voice scarcely a breath above the sound of her heartbeat. Please, just be careful. I stepped cautiously toward the door, trepidation dancing along the edges of my senses. The storm outside raged with new fervor, the wind howling a mournful tune. I gripped the doorknob, feeling as though I were about to open a portal rather than a mere entryway, leading into the unknown. But as I swung the door wide, my breath hitched, the sight before me sending a rush of ice cascading through my veins. Standing there, drenched from the rain, was a figure I had never expected to see, a face from my past I thought was forever lost in time. Why are you here? I croaked, confusion cracking my voice. Each word tasted acidic, thick with disbelief as the storm raged both outside and within. They smiled, the kind of smile that harbored secrets more profound than distance, leaving everything I thought I knew sprawled out at my feet like shattered glass. The rain fell in torrential sheets, cascading over the figure on my doorstep, forming a small puddle that began to spread. My mind raced, a whirlpool of thoughts colliding as I tried to reconcile the visage before me with a past I had long buried. Anna, I finally whispered, the name escaping my lips like a ghost returning to haunt me. Her smile faltered for a brief moment, eyes wide with a mingling of surprise and something that shimmered just below the surface, perhaps regret or longing. It's been a long time, she said softly, the words carrying a weight that wrapped around the frigid air like the embrace of long-lost kin. There was a moment of silence, a breath, a heartbeat where the memories surged forth, flooding my thoughts. Moments shared over warm cups of coffee, laughter echoing through sun-drenched afternoons, fragments of a friendship tainted by unspoken truths and abrupt endings. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice taut, desperately trying to maintain composure as the storm raged both outside and within. I heard about your daughter, Anna replied, her voice stumbling over the words as though they were stepping stones across a rushing river. I wanted to check in on you, see how things were. Her gaze flickered behind me, and I felt the heaviness of her scrutiny searching deep into whatever truths my heart had tried to shield. That I stepped aside, instinctively inviting her into the sanctuary that had been our refuge. As she crossed the threshold, the warmth of the room collided with the cold air she had brought in, creating an uncomfortable tension that pressed against my chest. My thoughts bounced back to Maria, who stood frozen in the corridor, phone still in hand, wavering between the weight of her call and the weight of this unexpected reunion. "Mom." My daughter's voice wavered, breaking through the hazy silence. I looked back to see her eyes wide with curiosity mixed with trepidation, as if she sensed the shifting energy between Anna and me. "Anna," I breathed, offering a weak smile to my daughter. "This is an old friend." The words felt inadequate, as though they barely skimmed the depth of what we had shared or lost. "I wanted to help," Anna said softly, stepping forward, her own kind-hearted nature bubbling to the surface. "I know things have been complicated, but I can help with your daughter if you'd let me." There was an urgency in her tone, a deep pull that resonated with something primal within me. "Help how?" I questioned, keeping my voice neutral, but feeling the primal instinct to guard against pain bubbling to the top. "I've been working with children with disabilities for the past few years," she explained, her eyes shimmering bright with a renewed resolve. "I've learned so much, and I thought maybe I could support you both." The sincerity hung in the air, stretching taut between her and Maria. I glanced back at my daughter, whose expression danced between hope and skepticism. "Why now?" was the question unsaid, but the connection between the two of them was undeniable. "Because you shouldn't have to go through this alone," Anna insisted. "I know it's been years since we've talked, but you were like family. I couldn't stand the thought of you struggling without support. Not after everything." As I listened, my heart wrestled with the familiar pangs of betrayal that had simmered for so long, but were now blurred by the pain and fear of losing one more person in our lives. Could I trust her words again? I felt an inexplicable weight shifting within my chest, as hopes, long cradled in shadows, began to stir. "It's not just about us," I murmured, caught in the current of my own indecision. "What about Maria? She doesn't even know you." "Well," Anna turned, her gaze softening with compassion as it met my daughter's wide eyes. "Let us start there. If your mom is up for it, I'd love to get to know you, Maria. I promise to move at your pace. I want to help, and I know we can create a safe space to explore this together." Maria looked up at me, her face a blend of astonishment and hope, as she felt the weight of those words resting closely against her heart. Anna extended a hand, her fingers trembling slightly, perhaps uncertain but still brave enough to reach out. But the storm outside amplified, a sudden crash of thunder echoing through our hollow quiet, reminding us all how fragile this moment truly was. Just as Maria took a step forward, the phone buzzed violently in her hand again, snapping her focus back to that lifetime of disruption. "Answer it," I urged softly, sensing the whirlwind of emotions swirling around her: confusion, frustration, the flickering of hope dancing dangerously close to despair. What followed was a single moment that would demand all the strength we could muster. Maria's breath caught in her throat, her fingers hesitated, and something within those seconds shifted the course of everything. Suddenly, the screen lit up with a name that strummed against my heart like the plucking of a delicate string, a name that promised to unfurl the intricate tapestry of our lives and unravel all that we held dear. The world outside continued to rage on, but inside, the air held its breath around us, poised on the brink of discovery. Maria looked from the phone to Anna, caught in an invisible web of choices that would lead her to either embrace the beating heart of her past or to step forward into the future, forever changed by what lay behind that screen. The room was saturated with the electric tension of unspoken words and unresolved feelings. The storm outside rumbled ominously, mirroring the tempest that brewed in my own heart. I watched my daughter's face flicker through a spectrum of emotions: understanding, fear, apprehension, while Anna stood close, an outstretched hand eager to bridge the gaps of a fractured past. "Who is it, Maria?" I asked quietly, my voice almost lost in the chaotic symphony of rain thrumming against the windows. She turned the screen towards me, and my breath hitched at the name that appeared. David. The name evoked memories of laughter too bright to fade, and an ending too abrupt to comprehend. A childhood friend of Maria's, whose presence had once lit up her days, come to cut through our darkened existence at this most tumultuous time. I don't know if I should pick up, Maria whispered, her face a storm of uncertainty. I could feel her hesitation. The burden of choice weighed heavily on her shoulders. It could be important, Anna chimed in, her voice soothing yet edged with urgency. Perhaps it's a sign. You've been feeling isolated, right? Maybe you need the connection. Maria's eyes darted from the phone back to me, and I felt that familiar pull in my chest, the instinct to protect overwhelming her longing for companionship. Memories of Maria's loneliness during this trying period quaked with time, each day spent grappling with her disability while yearning for friendship beyond the walls that confined her. Mom, what do you think? She finally asked, her voice trembling. The air thickened as I held her gaze, knowing that the decision before her could either be a step towards healing or an invitation into tumultuous waters. I could see how desperately she craved someone from her past, a tether to the life she once felt slipped between her fingers. David was always good to you, sweetie, I encouraged gently, feeling Anna's gaze shift to mine, curious but supportive. If you want, the phone buzzed again, more insistently this time, the sound echoing like the ominous cracks of thunder. Each vibration seemed to chisel away at my resolve. I remembered how David had been a loyal friend in the early days, celebrating victories with us and weaving tales of adventure and laughter. We had lost touch after his family moved, and his absence had left a gaping hole in Maria's young life. But with every gain came loss, and I couldn't help but wonder what it meant for all of us now. Are you ready? I asked, the words heavy with a weight that belied the surface of simplicity. Bracing herself, Maria pressed the green button, the call connecting within a heartbeat. My focus intensified on her expression as she lifted the phone to her ear. David? She breathed, the vulnerability in her voice making me acutely aware of how much information she was currently receiving from that side of the line. Maria, is that you? He exclaimed, an exhilarated disbelief radiating through the speaker. I can't believe it. I've been trying to reach you. Are you all right? The sincerity in his voice felt like a double-edged sword, one that could either slice through the fog or cut deeper into the wounds we bore. I watched as Maria leaned into the conversation, her nerves unwinding slowly, piece by piece. I'm okay. It's just things are a bit different now. Different how? He pressed gently, sincere concern lacing his tone. The two were weaving back together a bond frayed over the years, and I felt my heart both soar and constrict. I've been going through a lot, she finally admitted, the honesty a cascade of scars spilling forth. I'm disabled now. There was a weighty silence, and I could feel Anna beside me tense slightly, uncertain of what would emerge from the other end of the call. My heart raced, churning with both nervous anticipation and an unwillingness to let go of the fragile moment we were carving out. Hey, that doesn't change who you are. You're still you, Maria, David responded, his voice steady. I've missed you. If I could, I would be there in a heartbeat. Can I come see you? Sometime. At that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within me. Could it be that simplicity could heal? But then came a new flash of the reality we faced. Our fragile family dynamics looming dangerously close, striking at the very core of what it meant to lean upon one another. I'd like that, Maria stammered, her voice barely above a whisper, bravery illuminating her features. But before the call could deep dive into promises or emotions, it spiraled out. A flurry of dynamic lightning illuminated the room, casting fleeting shadows across our faces. A surge of power interrupted the conversation, making the lights flicker overhead. And in that disorienting darkness, Maria's face drained of color, panic rising like a bloated storm. Mom, I can't see. What is happening? She cried out, gripping the armrest of the couch, her grip turning white-knuckled against the fears spiraling within her. The world flipped. All at once, the nurturing hope emanating from reconnecting lost friendships became overshadowed by the chaos around us. Don't worry. I'm here, I reassured her, my voice shaking as I felt my heart race, fear clawing at the edges of my calm facade. David? I called out, trying to reclaim the anchor of stability that had begun to tremble. Can you still hear us? But the line had gone dead, swallowed by the darkness. We were left alone, tumbling suddenly into the depths of uncertainty. As we fumbled to understand the loss of connection, I heard the unmistakable sound of glass shattering, echoing through the house. Anna flinched beside me, eyes wide with alarm as the fragments pierced through the silence like shards of fear. A new kind of dread settled around us, and I grasped for Maria's hand, feeling the chaos swelling within, threatening to rip apart the fragile threads of hope that had begun to weave themselves between us. The revelations awaiting us felt perilously close, ready to tumble into our lives, carrying the potential to either elevate or destroy. And as the storm raged on, I began to sense that a haunting secret lurked in the shadows, waiting to resurface a truth we were still far too unprepared to face. The air felt thick, charged with the remnants of the shattered glass and the ball of uncertainty tightening in my throat. It seemed a cruel twist of fate to be engulfed by darkness, both literal and metaphorical, as if the storm outside had conspired with our own feeble attempts at repairing our lives. Maria's hand shook slightly in mine. Her earlier spark of hope transformed into a flickering candle struggling against a rising tide of fear. I wanted nothing more than to reassure her. But how could I when I myself felt untethered from reality? The glass chaos seemed to mirror my thoughts, spinning into an incoherent mess that wallowed beneath the surface of our strained existence. "Let us get some light," I managed to say, my voice steadier than I felt as I guided her towards the hallway. "Anna, can you try using your phone?" The muted glow of her screen cut through the darkness like a beacon, illuminating the shadows that had begun to creep closer, the specters of doubt and past failures manifesting in flickering silhouettes. As I stole glances at Maria, I could see the fight in her give way to the weariness of it all. Her shoulders drooped, and I wished I could lift that weight off her. "Stay close," I instructed softly, leading the way with a cautious step, fear gnawing at my insides. "I think I saw a flashlight in the kitchen." Anna nodded, her fingers deftly manipulating the phone as she followed behind us. The piercing sound of thunder clapped outside, the cacophony deepening my sense of dread. The elements were wild, mirroring the turmoil weaving through our lives. I could hear Anna's hushed breaths, the pressure mounting, as if we all held our collective breath, bracing for the next wave of challenges to crash upon us. Once we reached the kitchen, I found the flashlight shoved behind a stack of cans. It flickered to life, its beam cutting a path through the enveloping dark, and I pointed it towards Maria. "See, no need to be afraid. We're all together," I said, urging her to breathe deeper, to calm the rising tides within her. But as I turned back, I caught Anna staring at the phone. "Mom, there's voicemail," she said, her voice tinged with confusion, yet it dripped with a promise of discovery. "Now." I blinked at her, contemplating the storm as if doing so would somehow uncover its secrets. "Yes," she insisted, urgency blooming in her eyes. "Maybe it's from David?" With a mix of apprehension and curiosity hanging heavy in the air, I exchanged a glance with Maria before Anna pressed play. The crackling sound held us captive, drawing us back into a world that felt far removed, yet achingly familiar. "Maria," David's voice crackled through, warm yet laced with emotion that twisted my heart. "I know things were left too long, but I really need you to hear this. I was trying to reach you for a reason. There's something I haven't told you." A lump formed in my throat, the dread coiling tighter around my heart. What could he possibly have to say that he hadn't already expressed? My fingers dug into the flashlight as the vague shapes lurking in the shadows roped my thoughts. Questions spiraled through my mind like the wind tousling the branches outside. "I met someone," he continued, his voice wavering just enough to paint a picture of vulnerability. "Her name is Lila. She is important to me. Things happened, and I didn't know how to tell you. How to say goodbye when I left. I thought about you every day. And then, I heard what happened to you." At that moment, Maria's expression morphed from curiosity into something crackling with confusion and hurt. Her eyes shimmered with starlit droplets as they met mine. A torrent of unspoken anguish pooling between us, a feeling of betrayal over something so unsaid, yet undeniably potent. But the storm didn't stop there. The voicemail surged on, tension building in every word. "I don't want to hurt you, but I also need to be honest. I didn't know how to come back. I was scared of what you might think. But learning about your accident, I wish I could change it for you. Please, please stop," Maria whispered, shaking her head. emotions cascading down her face. Why didn't he just tell me? The flashlight flickered, and I felt a shudder pass through the air, a building thunder outside, but also part of the tempest within our hearts. As the voicemail drew to a close, his voice lingered in our minds, hauntingly cryptic. I need to tell you more when we see each other. There's something we must face together. Call me back when you're ready. Anna turned to Maria, her face a mask of empathy wound tightly over concern. He cares, Maria. Maybe he can help you find the silver lining in all this. But Maria shook her head, uncertainty breaking through. I don't want to face that. I don't want to see someone who left and then came back. I stepped forward, instinctually wrapping my arms around her, surrendering to the need to be her constant, her refuge amidst this storm of hidden truths. Sweetie, it's okay. You don't have to decide now, I murmured, my heart aching for her. But the hope that had teetered just moments before all but vanished in the wake of this revelation. The probing of the universe had opened old wounds, leaving fresh fissures in a heart long stitched together with care. In the pause following the voicemail, the silence that enveloped us felt like a foreboding herald of deeper truths lurking underneath layers of hurt and tenderness, a revelation yet to be uncovered. And in that moment of despair, a sudden crash echoed through the house again, magnifying the chaos stirring within. But this time a second layer of the storm brewing outside began to seep into our home, a feeling that more secrets loomed ever closer, tangled like celestial bodies awaiting collision. Maria shivered against me, sensing the storm we both felt rattling through the air, and I realized the core of our worlds had shifted yet again. Whatever awaited us was still shrouded in darkness, and a revelation that threatened to change everything lay on the horizon, tantalizingly just beyond our reach. The rain lashed against the windows, thrumming a chaotic rhythm that matched the turmoil raging within. The flashlight flickered again, casting unsettling patterns on the walls, shadows that morphed into haunting reminders of our fractured lives. Maria stepped back from me, her expression a conflicted mixture of vulnerability and anger. I can't do this, she whispered, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I can't just pretend everything's okay. He left, and now he wants to come back like it's that simple? Anna's phone buzzed again, the persistent sound cutting through the heavy tension that had begun to settle over us like a suffocating blanket. She glanced at the screen, then back at me. Should I call him? The question dangled in the air, delicate yet brimming with potential chaos. No, Maria said sharply, her voice tense and firm. Even in her anguish, there was a strength I hadn't fully recognized before. Not yet. I need time. I reached out to her, taking her hands in mine, feeling the warmth of her skin against my own, a fragile yet undeniable connection in the wake of everything that had shattered. Then we take our time. We don't need to rush into anything. As I spoke those words, I felt my own uncertainty surge. What do we have left to hold on to? Each new piece of information churned within, unraveling past wounds and intertwining them with present fears. Sudden shuffling came from the living room, pulling our attention. My heart raced as I stepped cautiously toward the sound. The faint glow of the flashlight illuminated the path as I moved, illuminating concerns that flickered like fading memories. In the living room, I saw a figure bending over something on the floor. My heart dropped. David? I called out, but the silhouette straightened to reveal someone else entirely, a person I hadn't expected. That it was our maid, Sophia, gathering the few things that had spilled from the shelves during the previous crash. She collected strewn toys and books methodically, wearing a kind expression that seemed to eclipse any use of time or emotion. But around her, an unsettling air held its ground, as if she were trying to undo the night, piece by piece. What are you doing here? I questioned, my voice trembling slightly. She turned, her dark hair shimmering under the flashlight, vulnerability etched into her features. I heard the noise and came to help. I know how hard these moments can be, she said softly. Maria needs support. Stay out of this. Maria's voice rang clear, cutting through the room with a sharpness that shocked us all. You don't know how it feels to lose someone you love. I could see the surprise and hurt flicker across Sophia's face. She hadn't been expecting that reaction. My heart ached for both of them, and I stepped between them, desperate to ease the tension. Maria, please, I urged. Sophia is just trying to help. We all are. Sophia took a cautious step back, her eyes glistening as they darted to Maria. I understand this is difficult. Believe me, I understand. But sometimes, letting others carry some of that weight can bring small rays of light to even the darkest places. The words hung heavily between us, and I watched as Maria wrestled with the conflict, the pull between pride and the ache of loneliness that had been sharpening around her. The storm outside rumbled, echoing the turmoil in the room, lives intertwined by pain and resolution. Quiet fell, but the tension was palpable, a crescendo building toward an unseen climax. Finally, Maria broke the silence, her voice trembling with raw emotion. Why do you even care about me? I'm just your employer's daughter. Sophia took a deep breath, an unexpected bravery blooming like wildflowers in an unlikely desert. Because sometimes, life brings us together in unforeseen ways. I lost someone I loved deeply. I know what it's like to carry that emptiness. The depth of her honesty caught me off guard. As Maria stood frozen, I caught a glimpse of understanding flashing in her eyes. The swirling storm within her momentarily stilled. Your pain isn't wasted on me, Sophia continued, gazing unwaveringly into Maria's eyes. I see you're hurting, and I just wanted you to know it's okay to have all those feelings: anger, sadness, confusion. You're not alone. None of us are. Before I could respond, Maria stepped closer to Sophia, drawn by something she couldn't quite name, a need for connection amidst her sadness. You really mean that? She whispered, vulnerability winding through her voice. I do, Sophia said with a soft nod, her eyes sincere and illuminating a path of empathy. We all have our scars, and sharing them doesn't weaken us. It brings us together in ways we might not understand yet. The air thickened with unspoken heartaches as Maria let out a shaky breath. I clung to the moment, knowing it was fraught with uncharted waters, whether this would bring Maria a sense of respite or plunge her further into despair. Just then, I felt my phone buzzing incessantly in my pocket. My heart sank as I fished it out. I recognized the number immediately. David. The heaviness shifted in an instant. Faced with the unknown, my hands trembled as I experienced the freezing grip of uncertainty mixed with bubbling resentment. Don't answer it, Maria said, reading my hesitating expression. Don't even think about it. A wild storm of conflicting emotions unspooled within me, yet the instinct to protect Maria overwhelmed the clamor of curiosity and unresolved feelings. Let us turn our backs on the phone. Just for now, I said, feeling the weight of responsibility bear down hard on my shoulders. The room felt charged with continuity, with fragile voices rising and twisting like the storm battling outside. But in that very moment of connection, the phone rang again, and we exchanged worried glances, the resonance forming chords of tension that wove through us. I steeled myself for the choice before me, aware that whatever lay on the other end could shift everything: hope, dread, love, betrayal, all intertwining like the chaotic weather battling outside. And in the heart of that moment, I felt one certainty sure to awaken slumbering retributions. This journey had only just begun, with the ground shifting precariously beneath us. The air was thick with unresolved tension and unspoken fears, but amidst the swirl of emotions, something changed. Taking a deep breath, I turned to my daughter and Sophia, their expressions mirroring the weight of uncertainty that hung around us like a fog. Maybe it's time for us to make our own choices, I said softly, feeling the words reverberate through the fragile atmosphere. To shape our own paths instead of letting fear dictate our actions. I could see the flicker of recognition in Maria's eyes, her gaze moving from me to Sophia, as if a lifeline was being extended, fragile but sturdy, filled with the promise of understanding. What if we share our fears together? I asked, opening the door wide to a vulnerability I had long shied away from. What if this transformation, this storm, is a door rather than a wall? Sophia's expression shifted, softening as she stepped forward. Sometimes we have to face the hardest truths to reveal our strength, she offered, voice steady like the heartbeat of a wounded but healing creature. We can't ignore the past, but we can choose how it defines us. We have to be brave enough to confront what we fear most. Like Maria facing David? I added gently, turning my attention back to her. You don't have to make a decision now, but maybe acknowledging your feelings around him could be the first step in letting go of the weight you've carried. The tension within Maria began to morph. Her shoulders relaxed ever so slightly, as if the shadows piling upon her heart started to dissipate just enough to breathe. "I didn't realize you understood," she whispered, vulnerability tinting her voice. "It feels so huge, so heavy. What if I reach out, and he doesn't care anymore?" "He'll care," Sophia said, her voice imbued with a conviction born from past wounds. "He may even surprise you, just like we are finding ways to connect despite our storms. You deserve to be known and loved for who you are now, not just who you were before the accident." "Maybe I'll never reach him," Maria said, glancing toward the dimly lit space where shadows danced. "It hurts so much. I can't even think about saying yes or no." Her voice broke slightly, revealing the depth of her fear, a fear rooted in abandonment, in the raw vulnerability she had been taught to bury beneath layers of walls. "Then let us not think about it right now," I interjected gently, my heart swelling with the depth of her struggles. "Let us take it one step at a time. Let us be vulnerable together." In that moment, a flicker of understanding sparked between us like the crackle of electricity igniting the charged air. The brightness of a new kind of hope shone brightly in Maria's eyes, reminiscent of the child who used to curl up next to me with her teddy bears. "And what if I can't do that?" she asked softly, shame painting her cheeks pink. "Then we hold your hand until you're ready," I replied resolutely. "We'll create a safe space for you. Together." And just like that, Maria's face softened. The wall she had built so high quivered for a moment. "Together," she repeated, the words spilling from her lips like a balm for the scars life had woven into her heart. "Just like the rain that beats against the roof but doesn't drown out the music within," Sophia added with a warm smile. "It can nourish our roots if we let it." As if the universe recognized the shift within us, the storm outside began to relent, the howling winds calming to gentle patter against the window. And there, in the whispered aftershocks of uncertainty, something began to settle, like an echo of clarity in the chaos. Then, finally, I took a deep breath and reached for my phone, feeling the weight of the decision balancing on my fingertips. "This is a chance for all of us," I spoke with purpose, letting the moment stretch into silence until both Maria and Sophia nodded. "We don't have to have all the answers today. David's voice can be a part of your path if you choose, but let us invite the dialogue rather than close the door." With that, I pressed the call button. As the line connected, my heart raced with anticipation, fear whispering in my ear, but the warmth of solidarity surged silently through the three of us. The phone rang, slicing through the silence like whispers of old souls. "Hello?" David's voice crackled through the receiver, laced with confusion, relief, and longing all at once. "Maria?" In that moment, time stood still. I could hear the rustling of the wind settling outside, a calmness washing over our little sanctuary as I realized that this wasn't just about reaching out to David. It was about stepping into the unknown together, inviting both light and darkness to guide us. "I'm here," Maria said, her voice a delicate thread connecting us all, weaving through layers of vulnerability, hope, and understanding. "I have so much to say." The revelation tumbled forth, cascading between each word like droplets of rain finding their way into the garden of our connections, transforming despair into growth. With every heartbeat, every whispered truth, it felt like a weight was lifted, easing the burden of silence and building a bridge towards healing. I watched my daughter's expression change, filled with determination and the hunger for a future bathed in love. I knew we had crossed a threshold. Inhaled the scent of newfound possibilities. We had chosen courage over fear, love over isolation. And in that moment of light cutting through the darkness, I understood with excruciating clarity that we would face the storms that continued to shape our lives together. "Together," I whispered, my heart swelling with an overflowing abundance of hope. And just like that, the warmth of the light began to pour in like the softest glow of dawn breaking through stormy skies, marking the beginning of our healing journey, one that would bind us forevermore. In that sacred space, we began to explore the world anew. Hand in hand before us lay a profound journey of souls intertwined, ready to unfold. We were not only mending what had been broken, we were creating something beautiful, stronger than the sum of our wounds, a family forged amidst the storms of life, filled with hope that sparkled like stars against the darkness we once knew. And just like that, I felt deeply that love was not merely a destination, but a powerful journey illuminated by our choices to embrace the light together, every step echoing, resonating through the tender, drumming heartbeat of a life we had yet to fully unwrap. A future ripe with possibility, waiting for us with arms wide open.